I honestly didn't have high expectations for the new MacBook Pro reveal since we just got the revolutionary M1 chip last year. But of course, Apple worked their magic and introduced another huge update. They created two new chipsets with the Pro M1 and M1 Max and rebuilt the MacBook exterior. Let's dig into the changes. The M1 chip was already the fastest laptop chip on the market. Its only shortcoming was that it was a shift to ARM architecture instead of the usual x86 that we see for Intel and AMD. This means that it had to translate some apps to work on the new architecture, which caused some incompatibilities and inefficiencies. Over the last year, Apple's translation software, named Rosetta, has improved dramatically, and most software developers have released or are working to release ARM versions of their programs, completely bypassing the downside of the M1 chip. And now, Apple has gone ahead and upgraded these chips even more. In comparison, the M1 CPU has 8 CPU cores and 7 or 8 GPU cores with a memory bandwidth of 68.25 GB per second and a maximum memory of 16 GB. The M1 Pro has 8 to 10 CPU cores and 14 to 16 GPU cores with 200 GB per second of memory bandwidth and a maximum memory of 32 GB. The M1 Max has 10 CPU cores, 24 to 32 GPU cores and a memory bandwidth of 400 GB per second with a maximum memory of 64 GB. Apple claims that there is up to a 3.7 times improvement in CPU performance and up to 13 times increase in graphical performance. That's incredible. We will still have to assume their claims and benchmarks, but if true, that's a huge jump in just 1 year. The concerns with such a large increase in performance is that it sometimes negatively affects battery life. Fortunately, that's one of the benefits of the ARM architecture. The M1 Pro offers up to 17 hours of video playback, and M1 Max offers 21 hours of video playback. That's more than double than the M1 MacBook Pro. They also listened to consumers and brought back the MagSafe chargers and added quick charging. These Macs can charge 50% of their battery life in 30 minutes. The only downside to these features is that they slightly increase the thickness of the laptop, but in my opinion, that's a small price to pay. Now, let's talk about the external changes. Apple finally got rid of the touch bar and brought back my beloved function keys. Now, don't get me wrong, I did think the touch bar was useful in some cases, but removing function keys wasn't the best way of implementing it. I hope they improve this feature and bring it back someday. Apple made some huge changes to the screen. It's now an adaptive 120Hz display with 1000 nits sustained brightness and a peak 1600 nits brightness. That allows amazing HDR playback. They also increased the resolution to near 4K and reduced bezel sizes. They also added a notch to the display for the webcam. I don't know if I am the biggest fan of notches, but I'll have to see what it looks like in person. The webcam was also improved to 180p in comparison to last year's 720p webcam. Finally, Apple learned their lesson and added more ports. There are 3 Thunderbolt USB 4.0 ports, an HDMI port, and an SDXC card slot, in addition to the MagSafe charger. Thanks for tuning in. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video.